Always a great time having my next guest on the show. It's the Baltic Gladiator, Modestas Bukauskas, who had a round one knockout victory this past weekend at UFC Seattle over Rafael Cerqueira. Modestas, congrats on the win, man. That was one heck of a knockout. And I thought you were the leader in the clubhouse for maybe getting that performance of the night bonus. Was that kind of disappointing that you didn't? Because you've seen shows in the past where Dana will be a little extra giving and give a few guys some performance of the night bonuses.
Well, yeah, I was definitely hoping that, considering that literally every single fight on the prelims was a finish. So I thought at least, they would have, but, it is what it is at the end of the day. Obviously, there was a lot of guys who had some absolutely amazing performances. There was some guys who had some incredible KOs also. So look, as long as I was part of the list of people who got the finishes and was part of like the highlight reel overall for the event, I'm happy, man. So yeah, man, like I say, all we've got to do is try and get a bonus in the next one, I guess, right?
That's right. You'll definitely going to have another good opportunity, I'm sure, at some point real soon. First, I just wanted to ask you: you were the first fight of the night. I was actually kind of surprised about that. I thought that maybe you climb in the division, maybe you'd be closer to the main card. Do you like getting it over and done with and kicking the card off, or do you prefer it one way or the other?
Well, so usually when I look at the first fight on the card, you'd think I like to fight with like a big crowd. It's a spectator sport. You're going out there. You want to impress the crowd. You want to hear that roar whenever you do spectacular things in the cage. And I thought, there's probably not going to be too many people with the first fight. But actually, considering obviously it'd been a while since Seattle had a UFC event, there was loads of people out there, and they were going nuts. Like, it was crazy the amount of support that I had out there. It was actually quite amazing, and it was quite electric in that arena, especially when I got the knockout. So yeah, it was absolutely amazing, and I think they probably did it strategically because I believe that my fight was like 11 p.m. UK time. So it kind of worked out, I guess you could say, more for like the UK fans, which sort of makes sense. So and also, it was quite nice finishing the fight, finishing it, and then that's it. I was able to just chill from like 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So, although, yeah, I guess as a competitor and, in terms of, getting that attention on you, you want to fight later on in the card. But, this time round, even fighting earlier on, mate, I enjoyed it. I just took it all on.
Well, you definitely took advantage of it and had one heck of a performance. I wanted to get your game plan going in against Rafael. Did you have like a specific game plan for him, or are you just going to kind of go in there and flow?
Well, so it was my initial idea that I had to close the distance because I knew from range he's good. As you saw, he threw out some very powerful kicks, and that's part of his game. That's what makes him strong. That's what makes him good. You could see like the whip that he had on his kicks when he was throwing them at me. So I knew that if I closed the distance, that's where I was going to be very successful. I know that I've got good boxing, and obviously you saw in his previous fight against Aslan when Aslan closed the distance, he kind of had no answers for it. And I knew that that left hook was going to be an opening in the fight. And that's essentially what I was searching for. And I knew if I was to land that shot, I had to close the distance. So that was the game plan, essentially, was that I knew I had to put the pressure on. And I even felt at one point, I started to back up at like one or two steps from those kicks. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I need to go forward. And yeah, that's ultimately what got the job finished for me.
Did you see that opening before the actual finish too? Like, were you kind of getting closer and closer to landing that hook?
Do you know what? It's funny when I was trying to like land my shots. I remember I was trying to throw 1-2s to sort of gauge the distance and everything. And I started catching it like on the guard, and we were both throwing check hooks actually at each other. And then I just noticed when I dipped a little bit with my head, the hook was actually finding its target a little bit better. So if you saw the actual finishing sequence, I did a dip, left hook, and then a straight. And then again, the straight hit the guard. And then the second time I threw it, I had like a little pause, but I threw it again because he backed up against the cage. And then that's the one that rocked him. And I watched it in slow motion, as you can imagine. Obviously, my dad's watched it like a million times already. But when I dipped him through the hook, that's his guard was actually up, and he went to check hook me. And then as he moved it, boom, it caught his chin. And then if he hadn't tried to check hook me at the same time, I think my right hand would have landed, and then it probably could have been over even earlier if that right hand behind it had landed. So, yeah, man. I mean, everything, like I say, went to plan, and I just felt that that shot was going to be there already just from the first exchanges that we had.
I mean, I think your most recent win is always your most important one, right? But like, have you ever had a knockout or a win that has felt better than this one right now? I know we're just a few days out.
Oh yeah, mate. Like nothing can describe the sense of like accomplishment when when I sat down after I'd finished him. I actually like got quite got quite emotional, but at the same time, I also felt emotional because you don't want to see a guy get like seriously hurt. That's why I even actually went to his corner and said, I'm sorry for what I had to do, because in this fight game you want everyone to go on to their families and everything like this. So at that, I had my moment of like letting all my energy like come out and like go crazy and stuff like this, and then obviously straight away I was like, this is another man. Obviously I don't want anything to be seriously damaged with him or anything like that. So when I saw him stumbling and stuff like that, obviously I had a heartfelt emotions towards my opponent. And obviously I hope that he has a speedy recovery. But mate, nothing beats when the crowd you start it getting a bit louder. They go, ooh. And then as soon as you start rocking him, and then it like literally everything just slowly gets louder and louder and louder and louder, and it like echoes around your head, and then you're throwing shots. And then I felt like I couldn't stop. Like I almost was in the moment so much that I'm just going to keep going, keep going. I like had an extra energy source just from the crowd being so loud. And that was what was so mad, is that the electricity in the building was insane for the first fight on the card. So yeah, mate, it's like something I've not had, and especially with the hands as well. Usually it's either kicks or something else that I had, but to get the knockout with the hands in that fashion, obviously I was absolutely ecstatic.
It's a beautiful, beautiful performance. I watched the post-fight show, and Michael Chiesa said that this was the signature win of your career. What do you feel when you hear that?
Oh, I mean, that's absolutely amazing, especially coming from Michael Chiesa, such an amazing fighter, veteran of the game, always a top contender within his division. And for him to say such nice things about me, obviously, that means a lot. And at the end of the day, I just see it as we just got to build on from here. So I put on the performance that I know I can do, and now it's all about just building off of it and just continuing to make these performances. So yeah, I'll have a couple of days off and then right back into training to try and improve my game and make sure I'm put on performances like that in my next fight.
Yeah, we can't wait to see you back in there, my man. You did talk after the fight, and you dedicated this to your friend Steven that recently passed. First off, man, I'm really sorry to hear that. Are you able to talk a little bit more about that? Like, is there anything else that you want to get out about him?
Yeah, so it's crazy because you say that we're the fighters, we're the ones that are putting ourselves on the line, and like honestly, I'll just explain the whole story. But I was at UFC London, and I remember I was just watching the show with one of my friends, and I see someone come up to me, and they said, "Oh, Modestas, I'm a huge fan. Like, is it okay if we have a like I speak to you?" And I was like, "Yeah," and we like literally just chatted for about half an hour. Absolutely amazing fella. Then I went back home, and then a couple of days later, I got a message on Instagram, and it was from Steven, and he said, "Hey, my name's Steven. I'm a videographer. I've been doing this for many years. I'm just want to say I want to do a documentary on you." And he goes, "Just as a side note, I've got motor neuron disease, and obviously I just want something to be motivated about. I just want to have something to work on to make me have fuel to be able to basically live every day." And as soon as I heard that, I was like, I'm that's obviously that was terrible. But I was like, so straight away I was like, yeah, 100%. Come down. I invited him into my house. I let him stay with me in my house and everything, and we just became really good friends. And he's such a loving and caring. I've never had like the connection between us was just straight away from the get go. Like it was just like amazing, and the stuff that he got, he we ended up that for my Zach Pauga fight, I ended up taking him with me to Vegas, and he was able to go backstage, and it was mad because he would always speak about like, oh mate, that was one of like the best days of my life, like the best weeks of my life. I talk about and think about every day, and it was mad because after I came back from Vegas, it was like a year since I saw him again. We'd always been talking, but he didn't want to message me because he didn't want me to see what condition he would like that he was getting progressively worse. He didn't want anyone to worry about it. And I'm like, bro, you can call me any. I tried calling him so many times, but after my fight in Manchester, I was able to actually go and visit him. I went with my family. We drove all the way to Cornwall, which is about 4 hours from me. And honestly, I can't even describe like the smile on his face, and just to see him like so happy that I'd come. That for him, a UFC fighter coming all the way from his house to come and meet him and speak to him and hang out with him just for a day, like he's like, well, who am I for this guy to come and see me? But obviously, because he means a lot to me, because he's always supported me. He's been like, even the times that we hung out and everything, like we just, like I said, we just had a deep emotional connection, and he's such a great guy. And it was unfortunate that because after that I said, listen, bro, after my next fight, 100% I'm going to come and see you again. And then he on the way back from training in Manchester, his girlfriend called me, and obviously this was probably about a month ago, maybe a bit less than that, that she called me and told me that Stephen had passed away. And it's sad because we knew that the inevitable was going to happen. Motor neuron disease, it rapidly declines your body. But even just from the year, seeing how much he declined, like he was fighting every day, just to try and be positive and have something to feel happy about. And obviously I'm glad that he's not in pain anymore and stuff like that. This is why I said that, he's watching from heaven, because he's just a truly special guy. It's not often that you meet guys like that are just, like I said, on the same wavelength as me, is about being empathetic and caring, and just got on so well. And I was just happy that for one of the last wishes of his life was to go and be at a UFC event, and he got to go behind the scenes and hang out with the crew. Like his dad even says, like, it literally changes his life. So I was glad that I was able to do that for him. He's always been a special part to me. And I prayed before this fight so many times, just to ask for strength, and I always ask about him, like when I'm praying and stuff like this. So like I said, it was a very emotional moment for me, because as soon as the fight was over, that's all I was thinking about. Is like, I did this for him, in his name, and I told his girlfriend that too. So it was a sad moment, just because like I say, I just wish he could have been able to see one more fight.
Yeah, man. Definitely sorry to hear about that. So forgive my ignorance, that disease that he has, is that always terminal? Like,
So I'm not 100% sure about it, but it's basically like your body's, like the brain linkage to like your muscles and stuff like that. I believe it is terminal. Yeah.
mm,
Like I think over the course for some people it happens faster, for some people it happens later on. But for him, like literally within 2 years, it went from him walking around, being able to move and stuff like that, to where he can't train, can't walk on a walking stick. And, it would have got to the point, I think it even got to the point where I think he died even before his speech went. So, it just rapidly just declined. Your body just can't, correlate
mm.
with your brain. So, yeah, it's sad, but like I say, I'm just, in one way, I'm just happy that he's not in pain anymore, because he was living with pain pretty much every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I lost my father in 2018. It's hard to believe that this August it'll be 7 years, and it's really, obviously it's been one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through. But I think about like just staying present and being in the moment, because
Yeah.
life is so short. It's crazy how you blink and you're 30 years old now, right? Like it's just wild how fast it goes. And I'm sure things like this, it makes you appreciate the here and now, and
100%, 100%. And again, I'm sorry to hear about that, about your father. I think you may have mentioned that actually before when I spoke to you. But exactly like you said, it's all about living in the present moment. Doing as much as you can, all that you can right now, not having fear, and embracing everything that comes into your life, like right now, and just being appreciative and grateful for everything that you have. And yeah, man, I think it definitely makes you look at life from a very different perspective when things such as this happen, for sure.
100%. Very, very well said, my man. As far as the rest of the card goes, obviously with you being the first fight of the night, I'm sure you got a chance to kick back and watch it a little bit. What was your thoughts on the main card and that main event, the Cejudo song ending? Obviously very controversial. I wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah, so I thought Song was actually doing really well in that fight. I thought he was controlling much of the pace of that fight. I mean, if you saw in the videos, the poke looked pretty bad. obviously, even you look at the doctor's review afterwards. I think there's like three different things that was wrong with his eye. You know, unfortunately, things like this happen in the game. It's just something that you just can't help. But in my opinion, I thought Song looked really good. So you know, I would love to see him fight again, another top contender, and I thought he looked really good. And you know, Cejudo, obviously he's had a bit of time out. Maybe there's maybe a little bit of ring rust in there after not being in there for a little bit. But yeah, I thought it was a good fight. But I thought Yudong, in my opinion, was getting the best in that fight up until that point.
I think Henry's team is probably going to fight to make it a no contest. Do you think ultimately it will get overturned?
Yeah, how many rounds was it again?
It was a
So
five
was it
round
three?
fight. It was a
Yeah,
five
yeah,
round
yeah.
fight, but they were in the fourth round.
Yeah, so it's fourth round. Sorry. I mean, it's one of two things, isn't it? It's like, yeah, the scorecard's up to the fourth round, and but obviously an eye poke, like you know, it's an illegal maneuver. They did have a couple of faults, them both of them in that fight. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of like in the middle with that one, like whether it should be overturned to a no contest. But up until that point, like Yadong was doing better, so yeah. I don't know. I'm happy either way, to be
Mhm.
honest with you. Whichever way it goes, I think that should be fine. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
yeah, try and get a rematch then afterwards.
Yeah, I'm sure the fans would like to see a rematch at some point down the line. I know Dana White isn't jumping at making that immediate rematch, so we'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
Modestus, to get back to you, man, like this being your second UFC run. I mean, we've talked in the past. You talked about like the evolution of like your mindset and how you've come along mentally and everything. But like, is there something else that you can point towards as to like a big jump in your skill set? Because you look like I've always thought you're a great fighter, but you look evolved. You look like Modestas Bukauskas 2.0.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. Do you know what? It's mad because in that fight, like I'm a switch stance fighter, and I do it a lot, especially in training. I wasn't doing it as much in that fight just because the southpaw didn't present the openings that I wanted. It was actually all the openings were presented from orthodox, so I kind of just took that one. Just putting that as a side note is a little bit of criticism of myself, but I feel like training at Tom Aspinall's gym, I've got killers in the room. Do you know what I mean? I've got Mick Parkin, I've got Tom Aspinall, I've got Ante Delia, I had Martin Bator. Do you know what I mean? You got James Webb, you got like Phil DeFries, Simeon Powell, I have to admit that's another uh, massive addition to my camp was having Simeon there because he's an extremely good fighter, extremely good. He's literally, he's been such an amazing like I said, even the connection between me and him as people, like do you know what I mean? Like we get on so well. We had such a great time on fight week. In training, he's trying to help better me, I'm trying to help better him. He's younger than me, so I'm always trying to like you see how quick he's learning, so it makes me have to step up my game. And you know, like all the guys in that big room, it just makes you more confident in your own skill set. And yeah, and they pushed me really hard. I mean, I had to do like literally Shark Tank rounds with Tom Aspinall and Ante Delia for like my first sparring, and I got whooped. So do you know what I mean? And then then I was almost able to progress myself as the weeks went on, and then that's what ultimately led to such an amazing performance there. And I've just noticed that I've just taken everything a lot more seriously. I'm not messing around anymore. I'm not a kid. Do you know what I mean? Like I take my career very seriously. I take my recovery on point. I'm doing things the right way. I'm not even wanting to take time off really. Do you know what I mean? It's just like I'm doing things more geared towards becoming a champion. A champion acts a certain way, and you just have to accept it and embrace it. And that's what I've decided to do. And you know, training in such an amazing room of heavyweights and then going with like the best grapplers and stuff like this, it can only make your game better. And yeah, I think it definitely bodes well for future fights as well, because I'll just be carrying along the same ideals that I'll be doing this camp and future camps also, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. That old saying is very, very true with the guys that you're around, a bunch of killers, man. What is your current contract with the UFC? How many fights do you have left on your new deal?
So I've had two. So Marston Pracknell was my the first fight of the new deal. So this was now my second. So I'll be moving on to my third fight on my on this contract. So because I actually got a new contract right before the Marston Pragnio fight.
Mm-hmm.
So although I had 3 fights on the first contract, and that was a 4-fight deal, I actually got renegotiated, and then which is always a good sign. You know, it meant that they most likely wanted to keep me, which is good because obviously the first run didn't go so well, and then I got the win in Mars against Pragnio, and then got the win here. So this will now be my third fight on this new contract. So yeah, like I say, just onwards and upwards, and we'll be looking to get another big win, and then one more fight, and then renegotiate again. So yeah, very good stuff moving forward for sure.
If Sean Shelby or Mick Maynard called you later tonight and said, Modestas, we want you to fight, short notice opportunity, someone that's the back end of the top 15, would you do that? Like, how are you feeling right now as far as getting back in there in a quick time, turnaround time?
Oh, 100%. I mean, look, I ate like an absolute animal today and yesterday. I didn't want to say any expletive language, but honestly, absolute ate like crazy. Not like too bad, but already I know tomorrow will be my last day of rest, and then Thursday I'm going to be right back into training. I'm going to be right back into the mix, just because I know that I need to. I just want to keep improving my skills, man. Do you know what I mean? I want to keep getting better. So yeah, if a short notice opportunity comes, I've been living my life like an athlete, and that's honestly where I feel the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I enjoy life the most, where I feel like I'm going towards something. I've got a very short period of time to get all this done, so I might as well make the most of it. And going up to Manchester and enjoying that time up there, that's always like great, like the camaraderie in the Tom Aspinall room. All the coaches, Andy's great as well. All of his strength and conditioning coaches as well. So yeah, man. I'm ready to get right back to it. So yeah, if a short notice opportunity comes, I will definitely be ready because I'm pretty much getting back into training.
Is there someone that you have your eyes on, like at the back end of the top 15? I'm sure, you got to take the right steps, right? You got to get into the top 15 and then work your way towards a title shot. But like, is there someone that you kind of have like circled, like, I want that fight? That's someone that I feel like would be a good matchup for me.
Yeah, so in my post-fight interview, I mentioned that Ibar Aslan versus Ion Cutelaba. Obviously, it'll be very interesting to see who the winner of that is, and potentially could we get a fight with the winner of that one? Obviously, Ion Cutelaba being the winner. Obviously, we're both skirting along on the edges of the top 15, so that would be very interesting for the fans. Alonzo Medifield had a very nice win against a very tough Julius Walker, so that could be another fight. All great athletes, all great guys. So obviously those are all like very interesting matchups, and those would all push me towards the top 15. So Anthony Smith, I know he's got booked just now, but yeah, man, like literally any one of those matchups, mate. Like I say, ones that haven't been matched up yet in the top 15. Obviously, I'm down for it, man. I'll be back into training, getting ready for whoever the next opponent will be.
How does a fight with Cutelaba end?
It's got to end with me getting my hand raised, mate. It's got to end with me getting my hand raised. He's very explosive. He's very dangerous. He's very powerful. But ultimately, if I want to be fighting the guys in the top 15, I want to fight for the world title, I've got to beat guys like that. So it'd be very entertaining. But of course, Modesta will be getting his hand raised.
All right. I'd love to see that matchup. That would be a fun fight. And obviously we know the theatrics that comes along with Cutelaba too. I'm sure the pre-fight hype would be exciting as well. To go right to the top of the division, Modestas, what's your pick for the title fight, Poatan and Ankalaev at UFC 313?
So a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, Ankalaev will just wrestle him and stuff like this." And yeah, I mean, obviously, he has got good wrestling, and yeah, he could very well implement that game plan. But I mean, come on, Pereira's been working on his takedown defense against the top athletes to make sure that if they do try and take him down, that he's going to be able to handle that. Obviously, he's faced mainly strikers as opposed to guys that have tried mixing it up. It's funny, you would least expect Yuri Prohaska to try mixing it up, but he managed to get him down. Obviously, so yeah, I mean, in my honest opinion, just with his power, with the momentum that he's building right now, and just being so active, I think Pereira would get the job done. And yeah, just the low kicks. I think the low kicks definitely play a massive part against anyone that he fights. Obviously, we've seen Ankalaev struggle with the low kicks against Blachowicz. So, in my opinion, Pereira will get the job done on that one.
That's where I'm leaning as well. Let me ask you real quick about Tom Aspinall. I know you're picking your boy to beat any of these guys, whether it's Jones, Pereira, if Francis Ngannou ever comes back to the UFC mix. But like out of those three guys right there, put it in order for me of who would be the most difficult stylistic matchup for Tom versus the easiest. I mean, none of them are going to be easy, right? But like, who would be the hardest? And just kind of run me through your thought process there.
So yeah, John Jones would definitely be the hardest. Let's be honest. Greatest of all time. Very good wrestling. Although I obviously think Tom would beat him, it would be the most difficult just because he's the most well-rounded athlete out of all of them. Then it would be Francis Ngannou just with the punching power. And who was the and you said Alex Pereira as well.
Sure.
Yeah, so yeah, Francis Ngannou just with the punching power at a much bigger body. I think that would play a factor. And then obviously Alex Pereira again, hands. Yeah, he's got them stone hands, mate. So yeah, if one of them catches you, but Tom's speed is on another level, and his placement in the cage and stuff like that is very good. So that would be the order for me. It would be John Jones the hardest, then Ngannou, then Pereira.
Yeah, there are weight classes for a reason, so that makes total sense to put Pereira there in the last spot. If you were a betting man, I know you're not because you're an official UFC fighter, you're not allowed to bet. But if you were, what do you think the chances of that Jones Aspinall fight happening? It actually comes to fruition. Do you think ultimately we're going to see it?
I hope so. I think it's the only fight that makes sense. I think everyone wants it. I think Dana White wants it. I think the whole of the UFC fan base wants that fight. And the fact that there is so much hype behind that fight, the only thing that's probably getting in their way is the negotiations. Will they pay them enough? But I personally think it's such a great fight not to pass up. It's a fight that almost by Jones saying that he doesn't want it, it almost hypes it up. So in that sense, it probably makes it more interesting for people. So I think it will happen. I think it might even be like behind the scenes, maybe a little ploy to get people interested in that fight. And yeah, if they can come to the financial agreements on both sides, I think this year we'll probably end up seeing it. I don't know when, but by the end of the year, I'm pretty sure we will see Jones versus Aspinall.
I sure hope that happens. That would be amazing if it is matched up soon. Modestas, always great talking to you, my man. Congrats on the victory. Can't wait to see you back in there. Before we do officially sign off, I just want to give the floor to you. If you have anything you want to plug, anyone you want to thank, the floor is yours.
So again, just want to thank I want to thank Stephen and his family for just always giving me the constant most motivation, inspiration to go out there and do my best. And his memory lives on forever in my head. And like I said, that's what gave me the energy and the power in that fight. So I just want to obviously thank him and his family. Got to thank Iridium Sports Agency, always Jason, absolute animal, and everyone part of the team. Got to thank Tom Aspinall and all the team, Andy Aspinall, all the guys there. You know who you guys are. I've got to thank obviously Simeon Powell, my dad, and Sebastian, my corners, BST Academy. Hodger Gracie helped me a little bit in this camp as well, so I've got to thank him. Los Banditos Club, Prometheus as well, and yeah, man, like everyone who's been very close to me, especially all the guys that came with me to Seattle as well. Jit, Shay, Paulie, and Coach V, my high school basketball coach, who I'm very good friends with to this day. He also came out there with me as well. So, I've got an amazing family and team around me, and I'm so grateful for all of them. And yeah, onwards and upwards. Like I say, big things coming.